The evening wind sends a chill through my body, even though I had layered on clothes to keep myself warm while the first frost was creeping in. I felt around the seam of my pants, and as I expected, my old shirt had slipped outside of my pants, allowing the cold air to creep under my layered clothes and up my back. Better throw that shirt out, I thought. Or make something out of it. What? No idea. Maybe use it as a rag. While contemplating, my eyes drifted aimlessly over the bare tree tops dipped in the fading sunlight of the day, at the edge of my property. Suddenly Russell pulled me out of my thoughts with a loud bark. Now I was back in front of my barn filled with a few goats and pigs kept separately. They were in their enclosures, the enclosures were locked and they had their necessities. Russell was right. No reason for me standing around in the cold any longer. I locked the barn and returned to my house. I had been lucky. I had struck it big with an app I had developed in college, and after it was getting quite popular, it had been bought up by one of the big players for a sizable amount of money. Enough for me not having to worry about money for the rest of my life, after I had hired a few people who knew where best to put my newfound wealth. While looking over some of the investments my financial advisor had brought up to me, I had seen my current property, and had immediately fallen in love with it. That was half a year ago. I came here with romanticized ideas of having my own little, off-grid farm, taking care of animals, growing crops, and harvesting them. It wasn't that easy. I've been brought up in the city by middle-class parents, never even coming close to nature. The closest I had ever been growing up were games like Harvest Moon and Animal Crossing on my DS, or trips to the beach. Well, I should learn very quickly that having your own farm in the middle of nowhere is hard work. I've been living here full-time for 3 months now, and I think I would have already given up if it wasn't for Robert, my neighbor. Neighbor is relative. It takes me at least half an hour to get to his house, but he's the closest to a neighbor you can get out here. Robert is a straight-laced guy in his late 50s, maybe ex-military. I never asked. Meeting him for the first time, he seemed cold and distant, like he didn't want anything to do with me. But at the end of my visit he still gave me his number, so I could call if I needed help with anything. He also told me to not leave my animals outside during the night, to avoid them getting picked up by predators. Furthermore, he will not come over after sundown, or before sunrise. And he recommended I'd better not go outside during those times as well. When I asked him why, he just said, even if it rarely happens. Sometimes those bears and cougars get hungry enough to attack a person strolling around outside. I thanked him for his warning, even though I hadn't heard of bears or cougars showing up around these parts. Maybe some birds of prey or coyotes. Still, I took his word serious, as he had been living here for more than 2 decades, according to his own estimate. So he must know best, I thought. And like that, I made a habit out of starting my day at sunrise and ending it at sundown. Life hasn't been easy for the last 3 months, I've been busy every single day. But despite his cold demeanor, Robert is helping me getting used to farm life. I think he warmed up to me when he realized that I am actually trying to learn to be self-sufficient and only call him when I have exhausted all the options I can come up with. While having warmed up to me, he won't let me call him Bob. Terrible name, according to him. I don't understand why Bob is such a terrible name, but I respect his wishes. When I told him it was kind of lonely out here, he told me I could have Russell. He is a little devil, too much energy for me, said Robert. Russell is Trudy's son. Trudy is Robert's old German shepherd. When Trudy had had puppies, Robert had kept 2 as guard dogs to take over Trudy's job once she passes. Their names are Russell and Cameron. As a child I had always wished for a dog, so I welcomed Russ with open arms. At night, when he barks at anything outside after it's dark out, don't go investigate. You don't want to fight over food with a hungry animal. Once I had forgotten to feed my goats when I had to take the more than 2-hour drive to the nearest town. They tried to rip off near anything I had on me that they deemed edible when I came in to give them their late feed in the afternoon. So I accepted his words without even questioning them for a second. Now being back inside, I would give Russ a bath. He had gotten quite dirty during the day. With Russell all cleaned up, it was time for me to take a shower. While I washed myself under cold water, I heard Russ bark from the living room. He's probably standing by the front door barking at whatever the hell is scouring my property for an easy snack. It had happened around 3 times in the last 3 months, last 2 weeks ago. While I had a shotgun stored in a weapon safe in my room, I did adhere to what Robert said. Why get myself into danger when all my animals were safe? Furthermore, I hadn't even used the gun, except for the one time I asked Robert to show me how to use it. I did not like the sensation of being kicked in the shoulder by the butt of the gun. I really did not want to have to use it ever, to be honest. I finished my shower, threw over a towel, and went into the living room, where Russ was still barking at the windows. I wasn't really interested in seeing what was going on. I had looked out the window the first 3 times and had never seen anything. So I didn't really want to look outside, but Russ had been barking for a few minutes now and wouldn't calm down, even after I tried to distract him with his favorite toy. So I decided to see what was going on. Looking outside, I saw not much. It was dark. But inside the haze, with the last shimmer of fading sunlight, I thought I saw a silhouette standing in the tree line on the other side of the dirt road that was running alongside my fence. I couldn't really make out much in the beginning night, but it looked like a person wearing dark clothes. They were standing there as if they were watching my house. Russ was still barking. Dumbfounded, I was standing at the window. Why would anybody be out there this late? But then I remembered that it was probably 7 p.m. at best. Maybe they were a camper on a late hike or just exploring around their camp. Whatever they were doing, it was none of my concern, as long as they didn't trespass on my property. I closed the curtains and hushed Russ once more, but it seemed he was still fixated on who or what was outside. Shit! I thought, what if there is a cougar or bear running around my property and that person outside was about to be attacked? Having that realization, I scrambled up the stairs to my bedroom and unlocked the gun safe. I amateurishly loaded my shotgun in haste, dropping a few shells. With my gun loaded, I ran back down and straight for the door. Russ, seeing me about to open the door, jumped between me and the door and started growling at me. Buddy, I have to warn that person, they might be in danger. I tried to bargain with my dog. But he won't budge, so I pushed him aside, laying my hand upon the doorknob, when Russ bit my calf. I dropped the gun and yelped, like Tom when he gets hurt. I jumped a little circle while holding my calf. After I calmed down and walked it for a second, I checked my calf. No blood, no bruising, apparently just a little warning to not go outside. Russ looked at me as if he wanted to say sorry. "It's okay, Russ," I said, going back to the curtains, peering outside. The silhouette was gone. I stepped away from the curtain, looking around my living room, and noticed my towel lying on the floor. Suddenly it becomes painfully clear to me that I must have lost my towel during my panicked sprint for the gun safe. That also means that I would have met the person outside in my birthday suit holding a shotgun. I probably would have scared them off before I even had the time to tell them about how dangerous it is outside. Or even worse, I could have been a premium bear snack completely without packaging. I shook my head at myself, gave Russ a pet, and got into my pajamas. And after I had my dinner, I decided to call it quits early. In the last 2 months, there were 4 more incidents of Russ barking at something outside. Out of those, there were 2 times where I saw a silhouette standing at the tree line. So while I was outside working on my truck a few days ago, having called over Robert to help me, I mentioned the people watching my property. I also told Robert about my thoughts regarding informing them about the predators around here. "Don't talk to them," Robert said, with his hands inside my truck's intestines. "Why?" I asked. "They know, they're just some weirdos hanging around the woods. You didn't go outside or talk to them, Dot." "No," I answered, "but why shouldn't I? I don't quite understand." Robert took a long look at me. I didn't know what to make of it. Finally he said, "They might take it as an invitation to come onto your property. You don't want them running around your property, believe me." "Are they coming on your property?" I asked curiously. He had piqued my interest. "You remember the floodlights I have mounted to my house?" He now had stood back up and looked directly into my eyes. "They are the reason I have them installed." His stare intensified. "Hey! Listen to me. Do not talk to them ever Understood? I felt like a child scolded by his dad. I looked to the ground and said, "Yes, Robert." "All right then." He said, "Give me the spark plug out of my toolbox." This is a weird place, I think to myself, brooding over my dinner. Who are those people and why on earth are they watching my farm? And why are they trespassing on Robert's farm? Thinking of Robert's farm weirds me out even more. What had happened between those people and Robert? Was Robert overreacting? Robert's farm looks at times less than a farm and more like a military outpost. Having a high chain link fence fastened to concrete poles being topped with barbed wire, and floodlights are mounted to his house. His doors and windows looked reinforced as well. It had weirded me out in the beginning, but thinking he might be a veteran I kinda rationalized that away. A strange veteran living off the grid in his own little fortress seemed like a film cliché, but it was enough of an answer for me back then. Now I'm worried, do I need to fortify my house too? I decide to ask Robert tomorrow. I awake in the middle of the night to a terrible commotion coming from the barn. Russ is also up and starts barking furiously. I grab my gun out of the safe thinking, what the hell is going on out there? I grab my flashlight and storm down the stairs. Almost kicking open the door like some 80s action hero. "Get the fuck off my property," I yell, swinging around my gun like an idiot. I still hear screaming from my barn. I want to go and help my animals, but halfway there I lose all my heroism, and dread sets in, hearing something heavy crashing against the metal gates inside the barn. What if I come face to face with a bear? Would I even be able to react before I get mauled? I turn around on my heel and run back inside, frantically dialing Robert's number. After what feels like forever, he picks up. "Do you even know what time it is?" He grunts at me through the phone. This better be good or I'm not coming anymore. Something is out there, it's eating my animals. I practically scream at the phone. "We'll check it out tomorrow," he says in a decisive tone. "But it'll be gone then, and my animals will be dead. What do I do?" I ask in a panicked tone. "Nothing," comes the answer through the phone. "There is nothing you can do about your animals. You will most likely lose one or two." Silence while I digest those words. "Look, lock all your doors and windows and leave the downstairs lights on. That's all you can do right now." The door. My head snaps around, looking at the door swung wide open. Russ barking wildly at the pitch black outside. While I stare at the door I realize there is still screaming, but the crashing sound has stopped. I sprint to my door and slam it shut, locking it. I flip the light switch and wait. I hear heavy steps outside of the door and something banging against my walls, door, and windows. Russ is whimpering now. The gun pressed to my chest, I sit there for what feels like hours, waiting for the whatever is outside to disappear. All the while my porch lights cast a tall wiry body with elongated limbs, and an awfully misshapen looking head onto my curtains. Finally I get ripped out of my trance. "Hey, are you still there? Hey!" Fuck, damn it, crawling along the floor I pick up the phone and whisper, "Yes, I'm here." Something is outside my house banging on the walls. "It's okay, it won't come in," Robert says. I think he is trying to sound reassuring. As heavy as it sounded inside the barn, it should have an easy time breaking down my door, even easier breaking my window. "I can't help you right now. But I will come by first thing in the morning." "Hang tight," Robert adds. Silence. "I am sorry, I can't do more for you right now." Robert finally says, his voice sounding awfully regretful, and he hangs up on me. Feeling left behind, I crawl up the stairs and into my bedroom. Terrified, I lay on my bed curled into a ball, the gun by my side. I cry into my pillow, while the thing outside bangs against my walls. What could that be? It was neither a bear nor a cougar. Was that even an animal? It didn't feel like an animal. Its shape looked like something that shouldn't exist on this world. Exhausted from crying, I drift into a dreamless sleep, from which I awake bathed in sweat. I see the sun coming through my curtains. Russ is lying in front of the door to my bedroom as if to protect me. I slowly get up and grip my gun. It makes me feel at least a little bit more at ease. With the gun in hand, I open the door, expecting to be greeted by something misshapen with rows of frightful teeth ready to rip me apart. But there is nothing. My house is empty. I stand in the living room, the curtains still closed. I think back to the shadow I've seen. It still puzzles me. The proportions of its upper body distantly reminded me of a manged chimpanzee, yet the shoulders sat deep as if dislocated. Trying to visualize what I saw sent a cold shiver down my spine. Suddenly I am jolted awake by Robert's truck horn. I lift the curtains lightly and peek through the slit. Robert is standing outside in what seems to be an inch or two of snow, holding what looks like an automatic rifle. I open the door. Still in my pajamas, I'm greeted by the cold. It chills me to the heart. "Don't you want to throw on some warm clothes?" Robert asks. I don't answer. I just go inside and put on some pants and my jacket, then I slip into my boots and step out into the snow. Russ follows me. Standing on my porch, I see brown prints on my porch. They look almost human, like someone took a human foot and split it apart up to the ankle. The toes looked elongated and the inside of the heels show what looks like a protrusion. That could be another toe. What the hell is that? I ask, almost screaming. Dunno, but sure as hell don't want to meet it. I look at him, furious. You left me here. You should have helped me. If it had come in, there would have been nothing I could have done to help you. I wish I could have believed me. But whatever is out there never comes in, trust me. He sounds remorseful. You've met it too? I ask. I wouldn't say met. I heard something creep around my house. And I've seen my slaughtered livestock, he says, shuddering at the memory. I do not quite believe him. If he hadn't seen it, why his fortress? I look to the barn and back at Robert. There is a long pause. I guess waiting won't make it easier. I try to sound less terrified than I am. I don't think I'm doing a good job. Inside the barn I see that only 2 of my 8 goats are still alive. One is hurt. The other one cowers in the back corner of the enclosure. The rest of the enclosure is a pile of torn apart limbs, crushed bones and rended innards. There is so much blood, at places the blood is dried, at others it forms wet clumps. I frantically leave the barn and throw up in the snow. I know this is overwhelming, but we have to clean this up. Robert says. We don't talk a lot during the clean-up. I try to dress the goat's wound to the best of my abilities. They seem catatonic. Like they're just husks of their former selves. While cleaning I notice that the lock to the barn looks intact. I must have forgotten to lock the barn. Coming to that realization I feel intense anger toward myself. I condemned my goats to die. I feel like crying again, but I don't. I feel it won't help me right now. It takes us the better part of the day to clean up everything. We drove out to town, reporting to the police and getting rid of what's left of my goats. Back at the farm the sun is setting, so Robert tells me he will tell me everything he knows tomorrow. Not long after night has fallen, Russ starts barking again. I hush him, and as soon as I do, I hear heavy steps on my front porch. Seeing the same horrifying silhouette against my curtains as yesterday. And the banging starts again. I retreat into my bedroom with my gun. And wait. Tomorrow I will tell Robert he can have my livestock, and I will talk to a realtor about moving back to the city. Now I'm sitting here in my lit-up room listening to the banging on my walls. Why can't it come inside? I don't know. But it seems to know I'm here. It's stalking, waiting. What for? I don't know, and I hope I'll never find out. Yet deep down I have the feeling I'm its prey and it has my scent. I awaken from my uneasy slumber to the sound of the telephone. I check my clock. 1 a.m., middle of the night. With my shotgun in hand, I make my way down the stairs into the living room and pick up the phone. Hello? I'm sorry for calling this late. Robert is slurring his words. He sounds drunk. Are you drunk? No, not really, just a few beers, his voice now carefully staggering out of the landline, as if he is now trying to mask his drunkenness. I don't care if you're drunk right now. I say, I'm just surprised. You never seemed like someone who drinks. Yeah, whatever, drunk or not, that's not important right now. He has now given up on hiding his drunkenness. The way it looks outside, I don't think I'll be able to come by tomorrow. Seems like we are going to be snowed in. Snowed in? Now that he mentions it. I had been so focused on the phone. That I didn't hear the wind pushing through every crevice in the house. Only hearing the wind rattling my windows, I feel safe enough to look outside, trying to see what's going on out there. There is barely any visibility, snow being picked up by the wind obscuring anything behind my porch in a fine white mist, while the falling snowflakes spin around in an insane dance. Scanning the outside, my stomach plummets in free fall, while my face flushes in feverish heat. There is a misshapen silhouette standing, still as a statue, not far from my porch in the frigid mist. I let out a pathetic whimper as my eyes meet the two dark pits sunken into the mass that would have to constitute its face. I'm sinking. Deeper and deeper. In the distance I hear Robert's voice steadily becoming inaudible, asking me what happened. I can't answer. My mind is being turned into pulp trying to make sense of the complete absence of everything I'm confronted with. My brain twists and turns, sloshes around in my skull cavity, trying to make sense of what it can never make sense of. How could anything, that is, possibly make sense of the absence of the state of being? The absence of existence. There is nothing. No sensations, aside from the burning torment of myself getting dissolved into absolute emptiness. I wake up to pain lying on my floor, Russell on top of me latched onto my hand. I am confused. I am bleeding. Russell has bitten me. Still hazy and disturbed, I try to stand up with tears streaming down my face, sobbing. As I try to put weight on my left leg, pain shoots through me. Russell had also bitten my calf. Looking up at Russell, I see him standing between me and the door. Oh God, the door. There is bloody handprints all over the doorknob and the door. There was also a large stain of blood right in front of the door. Did I try to open it? Did I try to let it in? Had Russell once again tried to save me by any means necessary? Still distraught, I limp over to my first aid kit and start bandaging up my arm and my leg. Russell still looks at me, but his wariness is gone now. He has the same sorry look on his face he had when he bit me before. How long has it been? How long had I been out? Before I can figure that out, there is banging at the front door. It's hectic. Hey, are you there? Can you hear me? Let me in, that is Robert's voice. Why are you here? Because I was worried for you, you idiot. Let me in before whatever is out here gets me. He shouts. I open the door and let him in. He thanks me as I lead him into the kitchen where I had been fixing myself up. How did you even get here? I ask. I have a snowplow for my truck, he says, as he leans against the kitchen counter. What is that out there? I ask, still occupied with my hurt arm. Nothing you should worry about right now. Robert answers. What do you mean? I almost died, I say. And that's why you should get some rest. We talk tomorrow, he says in a sweet tone. Pissed, I stand up and flinch from the pain. Tomorrow? Tomorrow? It's always tomorrow with you. I need answers now. Furiously, I stare at his face. My blood freezes as I look into his eyes and I see nothing. I don't get sucked in, but it looks a lot like the hellish pits I had peered into before. No, I whisper in despair, catching myself right the next second. No, you are right, Bob, the shotgun is still lying on the coffee table in the living room. I'm going to prepare the couch for you. Oh, how nice, I wouldn't have wanted to drive back in this weather, it responds in way too kind of a tone, following me into the living room. As soon as my hand touches the gun, I spin around and unload a shell into it. Flesh and bone fragments get splattered on my living room wall. Despite hitting its shoulder and the arm basically being only attached by some tissue, it lunges at me and sinks its teeth into me while we crash through the coffee table. I feel glass shards cut into my back. I can't shoot it in the position we are in as it's firmly latched onto my shoulder. I feel around finding a glass shard. Gripping it tightly, I stab it in the neck and sight, but it won't let go. I feel my strength fading. In a last effort, with all I could muster powered by adrenaline, I cut open its cheek and insert my fingers into the wound, prying its jaws open. It rears back to get a better grip of me. I use that timing to grab the gun and turn its head into a spray of chunky particles. It rolls off me, and I stand up, proceeding to unload every slug that was left in the gun into its chest. Exhausted, I sit down on the couch, drenched in my own blood and surely in its blood as well. Russ is whining. I sit for a moment inspecting the mess, when I notice tiny worms writhing in the gore covering my carpet. I jump up and run into the kitchen, getting carpet cleaner from under the sink. Covering every inch of gore I can, hoping that it'll kill whatever those worms are. As soon as I'm done, I rush into the shower and was myself as thoroughly as I possibly can, to be sure there's none of those worms on me. As soon as I'm done, the last ounce of adrenaline left my body and I collapse in my bathtub. Waking up, I dress myself and go looking at the aftermath in my living room. None of the worms seem to be still alive, but my room stinks of iron, putridity and carpet cleaner. So I open the doors and windows. I don't know how I did it, but I didn't bleed out in my bathtub. Nonetheless, I would be needing medical attention. So I patched myself up as best as I could and called the police and an ambulance. Luckily for me, the EMTs come in using a helicopter. They look shocked at the carnage before their eyes as they arrive. I get loaded up and transported to the hospital. It has been 3 days now. I'm still at the hospital. There is a policeman guarding my room. My parents have also come in to see me, which made me incredibly happy despite my situation. It had been a long time since I last seen them. Yet I'm not doing good. Yesterday, when they changed my bandages, I saw tiny worms wriggling around in my wound. Nobody seems to notice, but I do. Aside from that, my dreams had been empty since I've come here. Not dreamless, empty. And when I wake, that feeling remains, no matter how much I eat. But I know he can promise me something to fill that emptiness. I feel I have to return to him, or else I'll be consumed by the emptiness. With dimmed lights, as to hurt my now sensitive eyes, I write my will. A good part will go to my parents, as will Russell and hopefully Trudy and Cameron, when they find them. They will have a peaceful life in my parents' big backyard. My house will be demolished, and I will soon make my track back into the depth of my new home. When you're out and about, beware the woods at night.